Welcome back to the BN multi-page, and my name's Jacqui if you haven't met me before, and we've booked in a live this morning to cover some ideas on using leftover foods and providing you with some great recipes and hints and tips on food storage now that we're all cooking at home every day. It's a new thing for some people, and others have been doing these things for years. So bear with me. I'm going to be very quick, but I'm going to provide all of the information in a list in the notes underneath the live post once we're done. So I'll run through everything, and then we'll provide you with some recipes for leftover foods and also the list of ideas for storing your leftovers and being prepared for cooking different meals at home that are using up things that might go to waste normally. So who's here? Have I got a few people in? Just put a little note in the comments if you can, and that way I'll know who's on board. We've got a bit of a cast of regulars, but it's always good to know so we can acknowledge any newcomers. And I can see that on my phone as well. Right, I'll get into it. So lately we've found ourselves at home quite a bit more than normal. And we also are finding that we are cooking and we're trying to minimize going to the shops. So often I'm 5 o'clock comes and I'm thinking, what are we going to have for dinner? And I haven't left the house for the day. So I've been throwing together different pre-prepared cut up vegetables and bags of things I can just pull out of the fridge and make something out of. There's some staple things you'll need in your cupboards to make sure that you can A, make your food, and B, make some different dishes out of leftover food. So I'll make a list in the notes as well of things that you can make with the foods, then things that you'll need in your cupboard as a staple on hand so that you can utilize the ideas and the recipes. So things that you can make are pies. We've got a small, I think we just got it at Kmart or some electric shop, just a pie maker where it comes with a circle that you press out the pastry discs, and you also just heat it up. It's almost like a Breville toasty machine, but it makes pies. And I reckon you can put anything in there. Buy the good quality pastry. You can get gluten-free pastry if you're trying to follow a gluten-free diet or if you need to follow a gluten-free diet. You can make all sorts of different muffins, fritters, sort of like a bubble and squeak from yonder year. You can make like a pasta bake. So if you've got frozen veggies, sometimes peas and corn, carrots, those sorts of things are quite good in like either in a stir fry or also in baked casseroles, also pasta bakes and that sort of thing as well. Oh, good old bubble and squeak. So eggs are good to have on hand because they'll bind different foods together as well. It's cooling down now, so you might bring out the slow cooker. So slow cooked meats are really handy for putting in the pie maker. Often if I've made a curry and we have that for dinner with maybe some rice or a salad or as a dish, the leftover curry I'll make into small pies and just put in the fridge for later on. Curry can also be quite nice if it's not too saucy. You can make your own pizza base and just lay the curry on the pizza base with it's got a lot of veggies in it and lots of goodness, and just sprinkle with a little bit of cheese and pop it on the barbecue. We've got the pizza stone's best thing I ever bought. So that's something you can do as well. I often will make with extra meat that's left over. I'll put them onto skewers with a few veggies, and then we can grill them later on. So you're getting your vegetables and you can marinate the meat if you want to. So things to have on hand. Pastry, have your eggs. and the other thing I do with roast meats is if we've done a whole lamb leg, there's only 3 of us in our family, so quite often we do have leftover food. If we've got a lamb leg or some kind of roast meat that's left over, to keep it moist and available for the next meal or lunch the next day, I'll slice it up and put it in a flat container and cover it with some gravy. So when you're ready the next day, you've got maybe some leftover veggies and you've got your meat that's not left in the fridge to go hard and dry. Then it's also easier to heat. So with that extra moisture, you can just cover it with a silicone lid from the portion shop or from the BN Multi website. And then reheat it in the microwave. So handy things to have on hand are good quality pastry sheets, eggs, some pasta. I use the pulse pasta or anything wholemeal. I tend to steer away from anything that's using white refined flour because to me, I just think there's so many better options. The white pasta will spike your insulin levels and you'll be hungry 2 hours later, whereas the full grain or the pulse pasta is higher in protein and lower in glycemic index, so it'll keep you fuller for longer. It takes the body longer to process. The other thing to have on hand is some good flour, unbleached wholemeal, good quality flour. You can use buckwheat. Have a look around at the different richer forms of flours that are around. For all that making sauces and that sort of thing, I'll always use wholemeal flour instead of just the white flour. I can see everybody's here. Oh, good morning, Amela. It's good to see you all. Thanks for checking in. And I've just noticed the comments on the side of the screen. So you need to be organised, but it's going to make your life so much more convenient. The other thing that's great to make is if you've done a roast, you've got the bone from the roast, why not? Or the chicken frame from your roast. Keep all the bones and make a good stock. So I posted the recipe for the stock last week. A good bone broth is so nourishing and great for tummies that are healing after surgery, and also really good for bringing in some good minerals and also healing that gut environment. It just provides a whole lot of wellness and vitality. So you'll need some apple cider vinegar for that as well. As far as what we store our food in, you need a range of containers that are going to be portion sizes for you if you're taking them anywhere, or if you're portioning out your lunches while you're at home. It's much easier to set that up at night when you're packing the dinner away into portions rather than putting it into a big container and then moving it again later on. So make sure you've got a range of good quality. I try not to use plastic. I don't like to heat plastic in the microwave at all. It's been proven to leach different chemicals that can upset your hormonal profile, but that's not for today. So on our site, you'll find we've got a range of storage options. There's a flexi bag, which I'm absolutely in love with. It's a silicone bag that is reusable and has a clip to seal the bag completely. So it's completely watertight. So you can store any liquid soups or broths or casseroles and that sort of thing in those bags. You can freeze them, take them out to frost them, either put them in the microwave to defrost them if you want to, or just leave them in the sink. And then you can even use those to reheat your food because they're completely safe. You can also use them as a sous vide bag if you're getting very fancy while you're at home. So make sure you've got your cupboard stocked with things that are going to make life easier for you, and that you can then prepare your leftovers in a way that makes sense to you. So I'll post the list of must-haves, and then I'll also post a list of the storage options as well later on. Some good ideas are to cut up, like when you go shopping on a weekend, or every day's the weekend at the moment, when you come home, you can cut your veggies up. There's 2 things I do. If I'm cutting things up, I'll immediately freeze them. And the reason for that is that if they sit cut in the fridge, they start to oxidize and they'll start to lose their nutritional value. So if you're preparing things ahead of time, I'll tend to freeze if I'm not using any the next day or so. And that way you're maintaining that nutritional profile, and you just quickly defrost them or chuck them in a stir fry and they're ready to go. So things like your hard vegetables, root vegetables like potato, pumpkin, sweet potato and that sort of thing, you can even partially boil those and just let them cool, and they're actually better for you once they've been cooked and cooled. They have a different type of fibre that's also very good for your gut environment. It's like a potato salad. So cook your veggies and then group them into bags and store them as an assortment. So if you're making a roast, you can just pull out a bag of mixed cut up veggies and just chuck them out ready to go. So you're making it easier on yourself, but you're not wasting food and throwing anything away. From that meal, if you've got leftovers, you can finely cut the veggies and make a bubble and squeak, or you can put them into a pasta bake or come up with a casserole and use them in there again as well. The other thing I do to make food go a little bit further, if you're finding that you're on a bit of a budget at the moment, I can see people are buying mince because it's very hard to get. If you're using mince for anything, you can stretch it out a little bit with beans. Put in some kidney beans, lentils, any kind of pulses and legumes are quite good, and get the family used to that extra different form of protein, but it also bulks out the meal and makes it go a little bit further. So things like spaghetti bolognese, I'll also add some lentils to that, and quite often they go undetected. Red lentils are wonderful because they cook very quickly and you don't have to soak or cook them prior. So often I'll just add maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons of red lentils to a sauce, and it'll thicken it and give it some extra depth without actually changing the actual face of the whole meal. The other thing is making sure you've got good stock on hand. So any leftover scraps of meat, old vegetables, the ends of your carrots, bit of onion, that sort of thing. Don't ever throw anything away. Collect that in a bag during the week, all the odds and ends off your vegetables. And then when you've got a chicken frame or a bone from some kind of roast meal you've had, group it all together in a big pot and make a bone broth out of it. And then I'll show you the recipe for that later on too. Once you've got that, you can freeze it into cup sizes. And I use the bone broth powder. I'm a bit of a cheat. It's on our website. And it's just a tablespoon. I just put a tablespoon of that in most things that I make. And again, it's very good. It actually adds a bit of depth to your stock, and to any sauce that you're making, like bolognese or chili con carne or something like that. It'll actually give you more nutritional value, but it also just gives that extra bit of oomph to your sauces as well. Does anyone have any questions while I'm talking? Just post any feedback or questions you'd like answered in the comments, and I'll be able to see those, and it helps me a lot. Have got onto bone broth in my stews this year. They make a meal, yeah, very flavoursome. From reading, they seem to help your immunity too. Absolutely. Vacuum sealing, yes, vacuum sealing will help with oxidation because air is what oxidates the food and deteriorates the vitamins. The B group are the quickest to deteriorate, and so are and vitamin C. So once you've cut any capsicum or vitamin B rich vegetables, you will need to store them quite quickly and make sure they're quite airtight. So yes, airtight. You'll notice that the supermarkets are using a lot more vacuum for meat and all that sort of thing, and it's just to take the air out so that the food doesn't oxidize and start to deteriorate. Thank you. Happy Easter. Thank you. So yeah, once you've got all your storage containers set, you'll start to rotate those as you work through your food. And you'll also notice that you're not wasting as much food. There's other things I'll talk about, I'll post in the notes, and that's different vegetables that you can actually buy at the supermarket, but then regrow them yourself. So some of us are finding that we're leaning towards a few more DIY projects, lots of cleaning, and maybe we're planting things. So I thought it might be interesting for us to all kind of explore the different things we're bringing home from the supermarket that we can actually just cut the ends off and plant. So there are things like carrots, potatoes, obviously, sweet potato, celery. If you cut the top off and just leave the base soaking in some water for a little while, you'll notice the roots will start to form, and then you can plant them. So if you've got some really good quality potting mix with, or I always use organic fertilizer where I can, or if you're interested in doing composting, that's a whole nother story. They've got some really good in-kitchen types. I think the bokashi bin is a really good one, and that's just a tub that has its own, I think it's like enzymes or even bacteria that help to treat the food before it leaves the house. We live in Queensland, and I've got to say that's why I'm not big on doing bone broths, because the minute I start cooking that, we have 150 flies flying around the kitchen. So I am a bone broth powder convert for that reason. I generally cook at night because it's much more enjoyable that way. So looking at different things you can do with food and regrowing, even take the seeds out of different foods. If you're buying organic, that's even better, and you can conserve the seeds of pumpkins and different tomatoes and that sort of thing, and see if you can cultivate those on your own. So I think we'll have about a 6-month period of experimentation. So I'd love to hear about your gardening and vegetable growing prowesses. I'm sure we've all got time to think about things that we just never even dreamed of. Currently, I'm watching lots of dog training videos in my spare time. It's really weird. So also, I won't take up much more of your time. I think we've covered most things. The idea of the lives is just to throw the ideas out there, and then we'll consolidate all of those during the week in our weekly posts in the group. I hope you're all members of our BN Bariatric group, because there's a lot going on in there at the moment. We'll have our own personal trainer in there running some classes for us all pretty soon. I had a couple of days off at the end of this week, so I'm a bit behind, but Darcy Todd, he's very funny, and he's going to put together a range of body weighted home exercise, graduated kind of exercise that you can modify to suit your needs at home and your fitness level. I'll check in on the comments. The dogs are happy because you've thrown so much food out. It can be quite overwhelming having so much food in the fridge. Yes, I hear you. So a lot of these options I'll talk about freezing. So if I'm cooking something that's quite big, like I make these amazing black bean brownies, they're really, really easy, and it's much easier to make a double batch at the same time. If there's too much of it and I don't want it sitting in the fridge for young men to feast on a regular basis, I'll freeze most of it and I just bring it out as I think that we need it. Otherwise, it'll just get eaten, and we've got too much time on our hands to have unstructured food sitting in the fridge. So a lot of what we're talking about in the lives at the moment is managing food for economy, also imagination and using things a bit differently, but also to make sure that we're not overeating and we're not just reaching for food when we're feeling emotional or bored. So I'll check the comments one more time, and then I'll get on to just providing you with all the information I've talked about in the links during the day. That's about all the questions. So thanks, and stick around. I think we'll do a few more lives this week. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, go to our homepage on the bnmulti.com website, and you can also subscribe to the news, which comes out on a Wednesday every week. And also there's 5 recipe books you can download for free. So they're all high protein. There's some 4 different stages, liquids and purees, and also just some high protein snack ideas and some desserts. So I hope we've got something special planned for Easter. We're having a special lunch. I've just decided I'll do a lovely slow cooked lamb, roast some veggies, and I'm going to make some cinnamon scrolls with a pecan topping. So I'm pretty excited about that. I doubt there'll be leftovers. And so thanks all for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Have a lovely Easter. Bye.